The control valve is a vital part of your vehicle's heating system. They help regulate the flow of coolant from your car engine to the heater core, which then warms the air that is circulated into the car through the cabin. When this valve goes bad or malfunctions, it can trigger and cause lots of issues that will affect the overall comfort and functionality of your vehicle. So, in this video, we will be looking at the symptoms of a bad heater core or control valve and the common causes of each symptom or failure, and address some frequently asked questions on them. So, let's get started. First off, what is a heater control valve? The heater control valve is part of the HVAC system, which is short for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. It serves as a gateway that controls how much hot coolant enters the heater core based on the settings you choose inside your car. When you turn up the heat, the valve opens to allow coolant to flow through the heater core, warming the air that is blown into the cabin. Conversely, when the heat is turned off, the valve remains closed to prevent the coolant from circulating. A faulty heater control valve can disrupt this process, leading to various symptoms and issues. Now, where is it located? The heater control valve is often mounted on or near the car's firewall, which is the wall separating the engine compartment from the cabin. You want to look for hoses leading from the engine toward the firewall. The valve is usually connected to the heater hoses that transport coolant to and from the heater core. Symptoms of a bad heater control valve. 1. Lack of heat in the cabin. One of the most noticeable symptoms of a faulty heater control valve is the lack of warm air blowing from the vents when the heat is turned on. This occurs because the valve is stuck in the closed position, preventing hot coolant from reaching the heater core. 2. Fluctuating cabin temperature. If the heater control valve is partially malfunctioning or stuck intermittently, you may experience inconsistent temperatures inside the cabin. The heat may alternate between hot and cold, making it difficult to maintain a comfortable environment within the car. 3. Coolant leaks. A heater control valve or the core valve may develop cracks or wear out, leading to coolant leaks. You might notice puddles of coolant under the car or a sweet smell inside the cabin, which is indicative of a coolant leak. Coolant levels in the reservoir may also drop more quickly than it normally would. 4. Unusual noises. A bad heater core valve can sometimes produce strange noises such as hissing or gurgling sounds. These noises occur due to trapped air or coolant flow obstruction caused by the malfunctioning valve. 5. Overheating engine. In some cases, a stuck heater control valve can cause the engine to overheat. This happens when the valve restricts the flow of coolant through the system, leading to a buildup of heat in the engine. 6. Foggy windows. A faulty heater control valve can lead to excess moisture inside the cabin, especially if the heater core itself begins to leak. This moisture can condense on the windows, causing them to fog up frequently. 7. Check engine light or error codes. Modern vehicles equipped with sensors may trigger a check engine light if the heater control valve malfunctions or goes bad. Diagnostic trouble codes or DTCs related to the HVAC system may also indicate a problem with the valve. Now, there are 5 trouble codes that introduce heater control valve issues. First, the B1257, which indicates a heater control circuit malfunction. The control circuit is responsible for operating the heater control valve. This may be caused by a wiring fault, a blown fuse, or a failing heater control module. Second, the B1266. This indicates a heater water valve circuit malfunction. When you see this code, it means there is a fault in the circuit specifically tied to the heater water valve, which controls the flow of hot coolant to the heater core. Third, the P0128, which is for the coolant thermostat issues. Though not directly related to the heater control valve, this code might be triggered if the thermostat or heater control valve is stuck, preventing proper coolant flow to the heater core. Fourth, the P0480 for fan 1 control circuit issue. This code could indirectly point to a heater control valve issue if improper coolant flow affects the engine or the HVAC system performance, causing overheating or underheating. And fifth, the B1243, which indicates an issue with the HVAC system's temperature control actuator circuit. The actuator controls the flow of coolant through the heater core, so if it malfunctions, it can impact the heater control valve's ability to regulate temperature properly. Now, if none of these codes were triggered by your scanner, then it is possible it's a different issue from your car's HVAC system. You might have to check the link in the description box for our article, which covers all the code details for each specific problem. Causes of a bad heater control valve. First, wear and tear. Like most components in a vehicle, the heater control valve is subject to wear and tear over time. Prolonged use can cause seals, gaskets, or internal parts of the valve to degrade, leading to failure. Second, corrosion. Coolant systems are exposed to moisture and various chemical compounds, which can cause corrosion inside the heater control valve. Rust and deposits can block or damage the valve, impairing its functionality. Third, coolant contamination. Using the wrong type of coolant or failing to replace it at recommended intervals can introduce contaminants that clog or damage the heater control valve. Sludge and debris buildup can restrict coolant flow or cause the valve to stick. Fourth, electrical issues. In vehicles with electronically controlled heater control valves, electrical problems such as a faulty actuator, wiring issues, or a blown fuse can prevent the valve from operating correctly. Fifth, vacuum system failure. In older vehicles, the heater core valve may be operated by vacuum system. A leak in the vacuum lines or a failure in the system can render the valve inoperable. Sixth, extreme temperatures. Exposure to extreme heat or cold can cause the materials in the heater core valve to expand, contract, or crack. These temperature fluctuations can lead to premature failure. Seventh, improper installation. If the heater core valve is not installed correctly or if the system is improperly serviced, it can lead to damage or early failure. Always ensure that repairs and replacements are carried out by qualified professionals. And finally, high mileage and aging components. Vehicles with high mileage or aging systems are more likely to experience issues with the heater core valve due to the cumulative effects of wear, corrosion, and environmental factors. Diagnosing and fixing a bad heater control valve often involves a combination of visual inspection, temperature tests, and diagnostic tools. First, let's talk about visual inspection. Look for signs of leaks, corrosion, or physical damage around the heater control valve and its connecting hoses. Next, we have the temperature check. Feel the hoses leading to and from the heater core valve for any temperature discrepancies. And then there's the scan tool. Use a diagnostic scanner to check for HVAC-related error codes that may indicate a problem with the heater control valve. Now, when it comes to repair or replacement, it really depends on the severity of the issue. For minor issues like blockages or minor leaks, cleaning or sealing may suffice. However, for significant damage or wear, replacing the valve is often the best solution. The cost of replacing a heater control valve varies depending on the make and model of your vehicle, but typically ranges between $150 and $400, including parts and labor. Preventing heater control valve issues is all about proactive maintenance. First up, regular coolant maintenance. Flush and replace the coolant as per your vehicle manufacturer's recommendations to prevent contamination and buildup. Next, inspect the cooling system periodically. Check for leaks, corrosion, and wear in the cooling system, including hoses, the heater core, and the heater control valve. Always use the correct coolant. Use the coolant specified by your vehicle manufacturer to avoid introducing incompatible chemicals into the system. And finally, address issues promptly. If you notice any symptoms of a bad heater core valve, address them immediately to prevent further damage to the cooling or HVAC system. Let's dive into some common FAQs on bad heater control valves. Can a faulty heater control valve cause overheating? Yes, it absolutely can, and here's why. The heater control valve is part of your car's coolant system. If it gets stuck in a closed position, it can restrict the flow of coolant, causing your engine to overheat. It's a domino effect. When the valve doesn't let coolant flow properly, the entire system suffers. And trust me, an overheated engine is the last thing you want to deal with on the road. How does a heater control valve affect AC performance? You might not realize it, but your heater control valve and air conditioning system work together more than you think. If the valve is stuck open, hot coolant will continue flowing into the heater core, even when you're trying to cool down the cabin. The result? Your AC feels weak, and the cabin temperature struggles to stay consistent. It's frustrating, especially on a hot day when you need that cold air the most. What are the causes of heater control valve failure? The reasons behind a faulty heater control valve vary, but some are more common than others. Over time, normal wear and tear can cause parts to weaken. Rust or corrosion might build up, especially if your coolant system hasn't been maintained properly. Sometimes debris gets stuck inside the valve, blocking its movement. And if it's an electronic valve, wiring issues or a failed actuator could be the culprit. Is it safe to drive with a faulty heater control valve? You might think it's just the heater, what's the big deal? But driving with a bad heater control valve can lead to bigger problems. If it affects your coolant flow, your engine could overheat, leaving you stranded. Plus, if you're dealing with winter weather, the lack of heat can make driving uncomfortable or even dangerous. It's best to address the issue sooner rather than later. How do you diagnose a bad heater control valve? Diagnosing a heater control valve issue doesn't have to be complicated. Start by checking for obvious signs like coolant leaks around the valve or hoses. Feel the heater hoses. If one is hot and the other is cold, the valve might not be opening properly. For an electronic valve, a scan tool can reveal error codes pointing to the problem. If you're not sure, a mechanic can perform a more thorough inspection. What's the cost to replace a heater control valve? The cost of replacing a heater control valve can vary depending on your car's make and model. On average, you're looking at anywhere from $150 to $500, including parts and labor. The part itself might cost between $50 and $150, but labor can add up, especially if the valve is hard to access. If you're handy with tools, replacing it yourself can save you some money. Can a heater control valve be repaired, or does it need replacement? It depends on the specific issue. If the valve is stuck because of debris, cleaning it might solve the problem. But if it's corroded, cracked, or electronically malfunctioning, replacement is usually the best option. A temporary fix might work in the short term, but for long-term reliability, a new valve is often the way to go. How can you prevent heater control valve failure? Prevention is all about proper maintenance. Regularly check and flush your coolant system according to your car's maintenance schedule. This helps prevent corrosion and buildup that could clog or damage the valve. Keep an eye on your coolant levels and inspect the hoses for leaks or wear. A little upkeep goes a long way in avoiding costly repairs. I hope you find this video to be helpful. If you did, I'm sure you will also love this other video here, where we showed you how to differentiate a bad tie rod versus ball joint. Thanks for watching. I will see you in our next video.